Hello, everybody. It's Raina from Garden District Bookshop. Thank you for tuning in for virtual happy hour this evening. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to talk to Bethany Mangle, whose debut YA book, Prepped, came out 2 months ago, I'm pretty sure. I got the right date. And I loved it. I got to read it a little before it came out, and I loved it. And I've been waiting to have Bethany on. So I'm going to click this button and invite her on the screen. Hi, Bethany.
Hi.
How are you this evening?
Not bad. How are you?
Pretty good. I am enjoying actually this. I'm in Oregon, so it's a little chilly, which is why I have my scarf on. I considered not wearing it because I'm like, it's hot where you are, but I need it to survive.
I'll send some of this NOLA air your way.
Yes, please do. Please do. So it's virtual happy hour. I usually start with, what are you drinking? So what are you drinking this evening?
I have my obligatory writer mug. I don't drink alcohol, so I have lemon tea.
I love tea.
It says, please do not annoy the writer. She may put you in a book and kill you, which I guess
love it.
Good advice.
I love it so much. So I've been here sort of going through my mother-in-law's house. She passed away a couple weeks ago, and it's sort of a treasure hunt. And she has a ton of amazing coffee mugs. And unfortunately, like, getting them from Oregon to New Orleans is just not feasible for coffee mugs, but there's like 12 of them that I want to take home with me.
I think that you should find a way. You should definitely like throw out all your clothes or something and just pack all the mugs.
I had to like pair. That's what like everything's like pairing everything down to your favorite two and then figuring out how to get those two. Like, that's it. And that's what I did this evening. Like, I just commandeered a bottle of wine from her cupboard, and I was like, I don't know, this looks pretty, so that's what I'm drinking this evening. It's all right. It's not bad.
It's not bad.
Mm-hmm. See, as we go along, I learn which bottles of wine I need to take home as well.
True. And you're brave because you're like taste testing, but live on the internet.
True. You know, I did not really think about that before I got here this evening. I was just like, I get to take almost a 2-hour break and just drink a glass of wine. I said a glass.
A glass. You did. I heard you. You said glass.
Yeah. Good. I'm doing that. That's what I'm going to do. So everybody that's watching, if you have any questions for Bethany or for me, anything, just say hi, tell us where you're watching from. You have a book question, you need a book recommendation, whatever it is, type it in the comments. We are here to answer those questions for you this evening. Okay, Bethany, your book is called Prepped, and it's a YA book, and I got to read it a little bit before it came out, and loved it. Your book was one of those ones I literally did like stay up at night flipping the page. I was like, it's so fascinating. So will you give us like what's your elevator pitch? Give me the little couple of lines set up for your book.
Well, I am terrible at elevator pitches for anything, so I'm going to kind of steal one that somebody wrote for me. Basically, it's a girl who's raised in a doomsday community, like plots her escape with the boy from the bunker next door. And obviously there's a little bit more to that because she also has a little sister that she's trying to, get out before she starts to believe in this doomsday ideology. So there's a little more to it, but that's how I would, in one sentence.
Okay, so my number one thing while I was reading this and thinking about it is, where did this idea come from? Do you have bunker experience, Bethany?
I do not. But so I work in nuclear power, and as you can imagine, there is a lot that goes into that in terms of being prepared for anything, no matter how unlikely. Think of like a tsunami off of a lake or something like that. Just no matter how far-fetched it seems, you do have to think about it and how it could have an impact on safety. So I was watching an emergency drill one day, and I thought, what would this be like if this was every day of your life and you applied these same concepts but at home instead of being in like an industrial environment? And how would that look? And then I kind of latched on to the doomsday thing, which is a little odd to write a book about doomsday preppers and then have 2020 happen That was just kind of a very strange kind of parallel there.
Well, and what's fascinating about it to me is that there are kids that are being raised in these communities. So it's not like it feels at first glance like, oh, you're just totally making all this up. Like, this isn't real. But then you're like, yeah, no, it is. There's people who are. And then to get sort of this glimpse inside that community, and your characters are so relatable, even though they're in a community like I don't know anything about doomsday preppers, basically. I know what you've read on the news. What you've heard in passing from different things. But so it was really like being able to get inside that community. So what kind of like research did you do? Did you do like a lot of research?
Yeah, so this is going to reflect on my attention span. So I will become like temporarily like obsessed with something, ooh, shiny, and just go down a rabbit hole. And so while I was researching this, I ended up looking into all kinds of just weird stuff that I never thought I would look at, and really didn't have any relevance. I was just like, oh, this is interesting, and I would click on that. And to this day, I still get like ads. Are you still interested in freeze-dried meal packages? Are you still interested in this kind of fish? Like, so a lot of it was just looking at survival, and then like more like activity-based things that they could do, because I didn't want it to just be like them sitting around reading about things, kind of in the abstract. I wanted them to go out and do some things together to like train for the end of the world.
Yeah.
And so I also had to look at what was feasible for people to do, like kind of in their backyard, and what a doomsday community would even think about doing. Like, what would be something that they would perceive as a big enough threat to warrant having like some kind of exercise about it.
Yeah. And that, especially from the kids' point of view, and they're teenagers, but like the kids' point of view, they're not seeing it as much from all that the reading paperworky type of behind the scenes sort of stuff, even and that's a normal family. Like the parents, I've got a stack of bills my son knows nothing about, like that type of thing. So they would be doing more of the activities and stuff like that. And I also liked how your main character, the girl, and I'm horrible with names, like really bad. Yes. Okay. She is approaching this not just from like, oh my gosh, let me get out of this community, but also like, or mostly she just wants to go to school. Like she wants to go to college. She's doing well in school and she wants to go to college, and she wants to continue pursuing that in that direction. And that was really the impression that I got in the beginning, is kind of that's what was motivating her as much or more than really leaving the community. That was like what she had to do in order to move on, like to the next step that she wanted to take. And I thought that was really like, that made it extra relatable too. I mean, these are things you probably already know, but for everyone who's watching, this is one of the things that I found that was like incredibly relatable to these characters, even though they were they are teenagers and I'm an adult reading it. And also they're like stuck in this, community that seems unrealistic, but she still has these motivations that are the same as would be for like anybody. And I'm just 2 thumbs up, Bethany.
Thank you. I mean, yeah, a lot of that was intentional, because I feel like we want to say, oh no, that's too serious for teens, or oh, that's too whatever for teens. But a lot of time that's not the case. And so when you have people, young, teenagers who are in these kind of isolating situations, and it doesn't have to be something as, extreme as doomsday prepping, but for somebody who has personal problems, at home, it can feel really isolating. And that was something that I really wanted to show in Prepped, and I continue to want to show in all of my work, that not every teenager has that magical kind of childhood, and that kids who don't deserve to see themselves in fiction too.
Absolutely. And hopefully, like not usually, but at least you see a lot more of what you're talking about now in young adult fiction. But I feel like, maybe even 10 years ago, it was always in the negative. Like, this is the thing you don't want to have happen. You don't want to be, you can't, it wasn't an option, like, to hopefully figure out how to get out of it in that way. It was, and the way that you show her family too is it's not black and white. They're people that are doing their thing, and that's what they believe, and that's extreme, and maybe not normal, but are they bad people? Bad, good it's not, we don't live in a black and white world, especially when you're talking about somebody's family. That's her mom, her dad, her friends, that's her sister. Like, and there's so many times, like, reading this as a mom, I wanted to be like, here, let me help you. I'm gonna hug you. Like, I can't fix you. Like, I know that, but like, you definitely need a hug. I want to hug you. And I've noticed especially as my son gets older and I'm reading young adult fiction, if I want to reach through the pages and hug the children in your book, you're doing a good job. Like, that's where I am now. Like, if I want to save you and hug you, then you're written well.
I mean, I've had some similar reactions where I'm doing something and I'm talking to my characters as I'm writing something. I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't mean it. I'm sorry.
That's the tough love. See, that's the parenting tough love thing you got to do sometime. Like, I know you don't like this. I know it's going to hurt, but we need to. The story needs it. It's good.
Well, especially if I know ahead of time and I think, oh, I have to add something, and then I get the idea, but it's something really horrible. I'm like, oh, okay.
No.
In real life, you would hate me forever for doing this to you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I've heard, like, from some other authors where they're like, they try to get around it. Sometimes if there's something they know and they're like, that's what it's going to have to be, but then they'll try and write it differently and they go, no, that sucked. I guess I have to kill you, or I have to make, this car crash happen, or I have to do that thing. I didn't want to. I'm sorry. It's good. So so if you're working on something now, or whatever you envision your next project is, does it follow any of those things that you said you've got those ideas from working in nuclear power?
No,
So,
I my second book, which is going to come out next year, it's actually about reality TV, which is funny because I don't watch it. I mean, I'll watch it like if my mom has it on or something like that when I'm at her house, but I'm not like rushing over to watch reality TV. And so it's about a girl who gets cast as the lead on kind of a choose your new family style dating show with her mom. And so they have all these contestants and all these, like, their kids, they're all single parents, like, of different ages. And that one just kind of came out of the blue, honestly. Like, a lot of my ideas, I'll just be walking around or doing something and I'll go, oh, I wonder what would happen if I took a teenager and put them in this really weird situation. And that's kind of how all of my ideas happen.
that's kind of fascinating, though. So it's like that. There was that wife swap show for a while. I don't know if you ever saw an episode of that. It was, and that idea where it's like, okay, and we're just gonna switch families and see what happens. That kind of is like, if you took my son, who is a teenager, and just randomly put him with another family, I think that would be hilarious. I would watch the crap out of that. He would not appreciate that, but I would appreciate that. See how he works out with a different family. It's good stuff.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people do that, like taking an otherwise ordinary person, and putting them in kind of a bizarre like setting or situation and just going from there. But it seemed to work out with Prepped, where I was trying to take, just kids who are kind of on the cusp of like what you would call the normal world, and then this kind of very extreme community that they were in. So and kind of seeing how they navigate being a part of both of those worlds. And so that's, I think, a common theme for me, is having characters who feel like they are kind of in two different groups and trying to juggle both of those.
Yeah. And I remember being, a kid and a teenager, and you sort of think, oh, well, that I would be better if I lived at, Sarah's house. Oh, that I would be better if, I had this person's parents, or that situation, or this person, you know, these people let their kids stay out to this time, or they get to have a phone or something. So this idea of like actually being able to be transported somehow into that family, that you, maybe a family that you've sort of idolized as this idea that, oh, you know, they get these things that I don't get. That could be very interesting to really see that. Hi, Linda from Florida. I don't have a copy of your book because I'm here away from home, but I really considered bringing it, and then I was like, okay, Raina, you have a car.
No, because that'll take up space you could use for mugs.
Right? Yes, I did not know that at the time, but you are absolutely right. There are mugs that need to come.
That's your smart thinking right there.
Yes, I did find this book. I don't know if you've ever read Kitchen by Banana Yoshimoto. Okay. This book is the only book in the incredibly large collection of books that my mother-in-law had that I was looking for, because I originally read my mother-in-law's book. I came here one time on vacation to visit, and I read all my books that I brought, and I was just going through her library, and I picked this one out and I read it and ended up talking to her for like the whole rest of the time we were here about this book. I just loved it. And I was like, okay, if I can find this one's going home with me. That's another thing I would love to transport home, but like there's probably
sentimental value.
Yeah, there's probably like 30 boxes of books. There's no way they're coming home with me. Like I have like 4 right now, 4 books, not boxes, 4 books that will be going into my car. So what did you read any other books to prepare for prep? To prep for prep?
No, I did not. A lot of it was just like reading articles, and I watched a couple like YouTube videos, especially about how like you grow fish with plants at the same time. So some of those more obscure things, yeah, I had to research, but I didn't actually buy any like full length books because, like I said, with my attention span, I would probably have just read the entire book and not actually like written anything. So yeah.
You had to pick one. You're like,
one or the other.
I can write a book or I can read a book. Those are not like, you can't do both. I think you picked the right one. And especially like having the background that you have. So like you were getting a lot of information just from work, I imagine, and pamphlets and things that you were having to deal with anyway.
I mean, a lot of that is so like industrial that I actually had to do a lot more about what you could even do on like a small scale with just like a community of this size and what that would look like. And I didn't want to have anything that was so far outside the realm of possibility. Like I think that the biggest stretch that I put in there is that they have this generator on the river. Like that runs across their property. I think that was probably like the biggest piece of technology that I gave them because anything else just seemed like so much.
Did not question it at all. Just so you know, you were like, they've got this thing and they use the water to make energy. And I was like, yeah, of course they do. Like if I had a stream, you know, or a little river and a community like that, and it belonged to me, like because you described how it would run like through the property, so like they could do what they wanted basically with it. Sounds good. It's either that or like solar power, wind power. I mean, if you wanted to generate your own, you've got the reverse, you might as well do it. And I don't know the first thing about engineering, so it sounded great to me.
Okay, good.
As long as you don't have an engineering degree, you're probably fine. No one's going to question it.
Because I always joke that my husband, who is an engineer, I always joke that he is like Sheldon Cooper from The Big Bang Theory. I'm trying to do anything like slightly technical. I'll just be, does this make sense or is this like completely outrageous? And then he'll tell me. So he's like my personal fact checker.
Well, see, that's good. You just have him there. You don't have to worry about it. Just read over this. Or tell me how this generator would work. Because if you just write that paragraph for me, it'd be great. I could just take this paragraph and sort of like change a few words, and now I know how the generator works.
I just hand him my whole laptop. Here, just ignore all the other stuff. Like,
if you could just write this one paragraph, that'd be great.
Yeah,
I'll thank you. And acknowledgments. That's good stuff. So, hold on. What do I have? Yes, we're going to talk about baking. So, in preparing for the virtual happy hour, I usually read everybody's bio, and in your bio it says, baking questionable cakes. And my question is the baking questionable or the cakes questionable? Like, are you like, I'm going to put some pineapple and so like, I don't even know what weird things you'd put in the cake.
Well, I actually like to decorate cakes. I don't actually enjoy the baking part. I just like to decorate them. So the questionable part is that I never know exactly what I'm making as I'm laying everything out. So I'll have a design in my head, but then sometimes I kind of bite off more than I can chew. Or like one time I accidentally put my hand through the side of a cake and then just decided I just couldn't and like threw away the whole thing. I've done that a couple times. One, like if I can save it and I can patch it, I will. But like at this point, it was so bad that I'm like, I can't.
Just no.
So basically, it's the fact that I have no formal training whatsoever in baking, and yet I will try to decorate these cakes at a level that was like right at the top of my ability, or I will attempt like a cookie or something that is really difficult, but I don't want to spend the money for the expensive parts, so I just improvise with like tinfoil. So that's where the questionable part comes from, is that there's a lot of like improvising and not knowing what I'm doing. And I'm sure if anybody who is like an actual trained cake decorator ever saw me making anything, they would scream in horror and, just throw me out of my own kitchen. But they come out sometimes looking all right.
What is that show, that Netflix show? Nailed It. Have you ever seen Nailed It?
No. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, you've got to check out Nailed It. It's on Netflix, and it's a reality show for people. Basically, you've described the show if you were on camera. So they're basically just at-home bakers, whatever, and they give them a theme or like they give them an example. We want you to make a cake that looks like this, and then you just go, and it is very entertaining. Because, I don't know how to make a Cookie Monster looking cake with a balloon coming out the top. I don't know how to do that. But that's what they do. They go.
I'm going to have to check this out.
Yeah, they do these unveilings. And sometimes they're really good. And it's so funny because after you start watching it a lot, you're like, that person lied. They're not they don't, the pictures they sent in aren't real because that's too good. But then, some of them, they unveil them and you're like, oh no. But you have to be able to eat it. It has to taste okay. And it has to, they judge it on different, like how close it looks and different things, but it's hilarious.
One of my favorites is like, I asked my mom last year for Mother's Day, I go, Mom, I'm going to bake something. What's your favorite? And she tells me macaroons. And I'm like,
all right.
Okay. So I like look up a recipe, I get a bunch of stuff, and the only store that had any kind of baking stuff was like this little local grocery store, and they wanted like $14 for parchment paper. Like, I'm not paying for that. I'm gonna use tinfoil. And so that part actually worked, shockingly. But these cookies are so difficult to make. And they came out, they looked really good, they tasted good. I was so excited, but they took like 3 or 4 hours. And then after I'm done, she's like, I actually meant coconut macaroons, which take like 15 minutes. So then like my brain just exploded. I had fun making them, so I'm not actually mad, but it's just something for me to make fun of her about now forever. Is like, remember that time you told me that you wanted these cookies and I spent 4 hours on them? Like,
be more specific next time.
Yeah. Next time I will ask follow-up questions.
Right? Sometimes I feel like people, a lot of times moms, don't think you're gonna do it. They're like, this is just, oh, what's your favorite cake? Oh, I like macaroons. And then it's just going to go off into the ether and nothing's ever going to happen from that. So it doesn't matter what I said. And then all of a sudden, a week later, there's a pile of macaroons and you're like, oh, thank you. I did not mean you needed to spend 5 hours doing this, but thank you very much.
My mom doesn't get off the hook with that one because I was making them at her house.
She just watched you make them. She's just... and doesn't tell you until the end. Well, okay, I can see that too. She's probably sitting there going, do I tell her? Do I not tell her? I should tell her. No, I can't tell her now. Look, she's already
in her defense, she was in the other room, so I don't think she really even was paying attention to what I was doing.
4 hours? All right. I don't know about that. Mom might bear some of the burden of responsibility on that one. For sure. Let's see. What have I got open here? Oh, I was looking. That sounds interesting. I wonder which piece, because I don't remember when she said that. What sounds interesting, Linda? If anybody, because there's more people watching. Hi, more people. If you guys have any questions or comments for Bethany or for me, you need a book recommendation or anything, put those in the comments and we will answer your questions or recommend a book. Are you reading anything good now?
Right now I'm reading okay, Today, Tonight, Tomorrow by Rachel Lynn Solomon, and I constantly want to call this book Today, Tomorrow, Yesterday. I don't know why. But I'm really enjoying that. So if you haven't read it, it's definitely worth a read. It reached a weird spot of, I mean, I don't have to tell you, you live in Louisiana, of the day where my glasses want to fog for no reason. So
yes. And the biggest problem that I've had over the last year with masks is like finding the perfect mask to work with glasses. It's just in the beginning, especially, that was like my main nemesis.
Can't see anything.
Yeah. And I would see a mask, I'm like, oh, it's so cute. And I would buy it. And then I'm like, I can't, because you can't try them on ahead of time, so you're just like, I can't do it. And the only time I really wear my contacts is for right now, because I did not spend the big bucks on my glasses. So they glare like crazy. Like next time I get glasses, I'm going to pay extra for the like anti-glare stuff on them.
Okay.
I didn't really need it. I wasn't doing all these Zoom calls and StreamYard things and stuff. But then, so I usually only wear my contacts for this.
Yeah, I just can't do contacts. I don't know. I think maybe like I'm scarred from watching my brother try to fit contacts into his eyes when we were younger, and just seeing what a struggle that was. I was like, I think I'll just stick with the glasses.
I used to wear contacts all the time. And then I didn't for a little while, and I can't remember exactly why, because that's years ago. But when I wanted to go back and wear contacts again, they give me a headache.
Oh, really?
And I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why. So like even these, I can wear them for like three hours or so, and then I'll start to get a headache, and I can push through it for a while. Like if I'm at work and I have to, but by the end of an 8-hour day, I am not happy. So yeah, this like wearing them for like an hour and a half or so around virtual happy hour is like the perfect amount of time. And that's about it.
Sorry, not to derail your whole conversation.
No, please. Like yeah. See, we can talk about contacts, and somebody, if they have a tip or trick, you can type it in the comments, and then we'll learn something. I don't know. We're gonna learn exactly. Let me see. I was reading. So your bio also says that you've lived in a lot of different places. So I'm always interested what took you to all those different places. Like what was it just like you wanted to move, or was it a lifestyle that took you to all these places? Because I love to travel, but I've only actually lived in 2 different places. So I'm always fascinated about like living in a bunch of different places.
So I grew up in New Jersey. I was born in Korea, but that doesn't count because I left as a baby. So I lived there, but like as an infant, so that doesn't count. So I left New Jersey in kind of an unorthodox way of applying to college, which went like this: I have no money, so whoever wants to give me lots of money is I will be there. So I didn't even see my college until I was accepted and committed to going there. I literally could not have cared about a single thing about where it was, anything. Just I opened it, I saw the offer, and I went,
You
that's
win.
for me. Maryland it is. So I love New Jersey. I went to Maryland, and then I met my husband and everything. So and he is also in nuclear power, and at that point, so he got a job offer in Ohio. We went up there. And then we moved to Mississippi for work. So, and then, obviously to New Orleans. So yeah, it's just been a lot of living all over the country and moving, but we're learning some things about like by doing it too. That's kind of interesting about like regional differences, you know, food, even like styles of music. There's so many different tips and tricks and things that people tell you when you get to a new area that make you stop and think about how to like exist in a completely new area, which was really important when we left Ohio and came to the Deep South because we had never seen so many of like the different things down here. Going from a polar vortex when it was literally negative 27, and now all of a sudden it's like 95 degrees outside.
Yeah.
And I'm just like a puddle out on the front sidewalk. So yeah, it's been a lot. But I'm so excited to have found like your store in particular because I always feel a little weird until I have a bookstore that I like to visit. I know that sounds kind of silly, but
oh no. I mean, it doesn't, I don't think it does to anybody who would be tuning in to this. And it definitely doesn't to me. I actually I'm here in Baker City, right? And there's one little indie bookstore, and it's a great little indie bookstore, Betty's Books. And I have gone in every single time that I've been here. So I've only been here like 8 times probably in the last like 8 years. But I've gone in every single time and explained who I am. And, I'll always buy some books and I end up talking to them for like 20 minutes. And my son and my husband are like, why are we still here? Like you have the book, you bought it. Why are we still talking? But to the point where like I go in there this time and they're like, oh yeah, you start your introduction of who you are. And then they're like, oh, I remember you guys. You're like, okay. And then, you go off talking about books. And it makes you like, as weird as it is, like it feels more like, oh, I've got somewhere to go. Like I could go somewhere. I don't know anything about this little town, but right. I could go to that bookstore and chat with them for half an hour and buy a book and be, in a happy place. So
the one day I actually like screamed because I bought this random book off of eBay, and it was just from like some random seller. Like I wasn't paying attention to who was selling it. I just knew that I couldn't find it anywhere because it's a translation. I'm like, somebody has to have this, and so I found it. And when I got it, it came from my local indie when I used to live in Maryland, and I hadn't even registered that. It was just I saw the packaging and I went, why am I getting this from Wonder Book? And then I tore it open and I went, Wonder Book! Like it was just such a surprise. Like
it's such a great feeling though, because like you're like, oh, I thought I was just buying this from some random person and whatever, and then you're like, oh no, I was supporting my indie. Yes. So like I didn't even know. So Linda is asking, and we may have already answered it, which we kind of did. Was there someone in your family or friends that were preppers that influenced you? And you sort of answered that already, but I'm gonna like add on to that to go like in your writing of the book, did you end up meeting any?
No, not really. So yeah, I kind of answered this before a little bit, but like I said, since I work in nuclear power and we have to be really prepared for anything, that was really the inspiration behind it versus actually knowing someone. But as I did research, I didn't meet anybody in particular, but I did have a couple of people reach out and say like jokingly, oh, I'm like a quarter of a prepper, I guess, because I have like 7 closets full of toilet paper, or, I do have like an emergency kit in my car. And yeah, so we're nothing like even close to doomsday preppers, but I will say that like after the pandemic, I do think that I sort of compare it to like people who knew people who lived in the Great Depression or some other great like period, like a depressed period throughout history, that they would have some like quirks and habits that they retained from that. I think I'm going to be like one of those people about being like just so careful and so like kind of conscientious now about making sure that I have things, because I tend to be the kind of person who like I'm down to my last roll of toilet paper and my last like thing of milk or whatever, my last drop of milk, my last pill, my last whatever. And then I go, oh, I should really get more of that. And living through this experience of quarantine and the pandemic has really made me think more about, it is kind of irresponsible to not even think one day ahead, unless, of course, it comes to my dog, in which case I have like 18 years of food at all times and enough snacks to last for, till 2030. So,
Yeah.
but when it comes to like, taking care of myself, I'm just not so great at that. So I can't say that it was an entirely bad thing that I went and researched doomsday prepping, because I think that we should all at least have a little bit of doomsday prepper in us when it comes to being able to, weather anything ahead.
Yeah, and that I completely agree with that. Like I used to care more about having like two things of dryer sheets or two, like one ahead. And then at some point I just sort of got out of the habit of it. Whatever life is happening and you're just living, one box at a time. And this definitely, I agree, did the same exact thing. I was like, man, I used to have like an extra bag of rice and I don't anymore. I have what I'm using. And I now like I'm trying to I'm stacking up. Like there's an extra thing of toilet paper. I don't need 20. I'm not greedy, but there's an extra one in the back of the closet. Like, I just cause what if? And it happened so quickly. Feels like it happened so quickly. Like people who knew, right, saw things coming, but people who didn't, you're just sitting here and one day you're like, oh, did you read about that news article? And then like it felt like the next day. And the reality is still, it was like just a couple of weeks. Things are getting canceled and I can't go to the store and everyone's buying all the toilet paper. And like, do I need toilet paper? And I'm looking in my own closet going, do I? Like trying to decide whether or not you're going to be the person who runs out and buys extra toilet paper right now, or whether you're going to go, I do have 8 rolls, so maybe I'll wait it out. And is that the right answer? Like, this is like last March, right? Last March, I'm literally looking at my closet going, is it worth getting through the hordes at the Walmart to buy extra toilet paper, or do I just wait out these 8 rolls?
Well, I think it is like the news too. And I mean, so for example, like down here in Louisiana, I mean, every time there's even a minor storm rolling in, it's, my phone's waking me up because flash flood alerts, it's the end of days, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like a perfectly normal, like regular routine storm that's just rolling through. And so I think that contributes a lot to how we perceive things like, the end of the world, or like these things that, in the doomsday community that they're worried about. I think a lot of it has to do like in real life with how we sensationalize things, or like in Ohio, for example, where, we would get just a ton of snow, a ton of ice. And every storm was the storm until one day it really was the storm and it dropped like, literal feet overnight. It was, and no one could move. I mean, you could not leave if you wanted to, but no one acted any differently there, because when everything is the end of the world, nothing's the end of the world. And so that was something I also wanted to address in Prepped, is the idea that the things that you think are important aren't necessarily. It's just like they're the loudest, they're the most in your face, because and that's why I have that one instance where, Katie, who's 10 years old and doesn't really know how to advocate for herself very well, like is walking around in shoes that are like a size too small. But no one is thinking about that because they're worried about like what would happen if a huge earthquake came through here and like killed us all. And that's just, it's a very extreme way of thinking. And so to them, they're so focused on these external things that they're not looking at, kind of the very small things that can have a huge impact, like having shoes that are too small.
Yeah, for sure. And it is easy to get caught up, even if you're not a doomsday prepper, like in your day to day, things are happening and all of a sudden you realize, your kid's eating hot dogs for 5 days in a row and you're like, wow, hey, do you want something else to eat? And like, and kids are so like used to their environment. You sort of like shape what they're doing. So they're just like, I guess we eat hot dogs now. Like that's what we do. And so like at least my son, it would be a while before he would say, hey, we've eaten a lot of hot dogs recently. You know, and then all of a sudden you'd realize, because he's just like, okay, until like it's so many days before he's like, hey, could we have a peanut butter and jelly? Like he doesn't want anything extreme, but like, yeah, he would just go with the flow. And I saw that, you know, and Katie does sort of the same thing where it's like, okay, I just put these on. Like, this is just the way it is, you know, until it's like so bad that it can't be that way.
You know, your hot dog story reminds me of when I was a kid. There's a seafood restaurant near where I grew up, and we go for special occasions or whatever. My mom's cousin just loves this place, so we were there with her one time, and they were so focused on like their conversation or whatever that they just gave me some shrimp. They didn't, but they were peel and eat. And so I had eaten a couple, and then I told my mom, I don't like these shrimp as much. They're so crunchy.
Because you're just eating them.
Yeah, I mean that my mom gave me these. They must be fine. And I was just eating them, and she yeah, and then she goes, oh, you know, obviously she didn't peel them for me. But
you do, like, you get caught up in other things and you're like, of course she knows not to eat them that way, or you don't even think about it. You're just like, whatever. Today on the hot dog theme, we've not eaten hot dogs for 5 days in a row. But the reason I thought of hot dogs specifically is because I got hot dogs. I got hot dog buns, and I assumed there would be ketchup here. There isn't. And which of course is the only thing my son eats on his hot dog is ketchup. And so I give it to him, and he's like, is there no ketchup? Is ketchup? Do we have, like, how do I even, is it possible to eat a hot dog if it doesn't have ketchup on it? Like, it was literally like that level of like because his hot dogs have always have ketchup. That is how you eat a hot dog. That is just the way it works. And it didn't have any, and he did eat it, like it was fine, but it was like funny because the original thought in his head is like,
panic.
Is this a thing? Can you do this? Like, and I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I'll get some ketchup tomorrow. I just don't have any, you know, like I have mustard, and he's like, no, mustard? That's gross. I was like, okay, well, I guess just a hot dog then. Those are your two options today, sir. So he's also making sacrifices.
I can see that.
Right. Mm-hmm. But actually, he's having a life adventure right now. Baker City is a very small town. It's like, have you ever seen Schitt's Creek?
Nope.
Okay. So I both advise and don't advise watching Schitt's Creek, because once you get like 3 episodes deep, you will watch all 6 seasons. So it's like you need to be ready for that level of commitment. You're either in by 3 episodes or you're out. And if you're in, you're screwed. Like your whole next 2 weeks is just going to be Schitt's Creek. But they moved to an incredibly small town, a little bit of backwards small town. And Baker City is adorable and beautiful, and it's great, and everyone's friendly, but it's incredibly small. So coming from New Orleans,
oh yeah,
and then it was sort of like being here for a couple of weeks. It's like it's just very, very tiny. But as I mentioned, he's 14, and he asked if he could go for a walk by himself.
Aww.
And it is very exciting, because in New Orleans, you can't be like, yeah, sure, kid, have fun, be back in an hour. Like, I'm not ready for that. But here I was like, I guess so. Don't die.
Well,
Okay.
especially now that the city is like kind of coming back to life. I mean, even like, you know, I'm a grown like adult. I mean, technically, maybe not emotionally.
I love how you qualified that, but it's good. It's good to know. Be okay with it.
I'm just like an overripe child, I think, is where I would just kind of pin myself on the maturity scale. But you know, even like I'll be out and about and looking around and kind of just remembering how quiet and sleepy everything was like towards the end of last year and the beginning of this year. And now seeing it kind of like with so many people, it's kind of overwhelming. then even I'm like, do I want to take a walk right now? Like, there's just so many people here. Like, what do I do?
When figuring out too, like for so long, I think it's really only been like a year, but for so long, you're like, should I cross the street even when one person is coming on the same side of the sidewalk? And I would, a lot of times I would, or you'd like go out around the car or something, to like really avoid each other. And now it's like, how close can we be? Is this okay? Like, I'm always like, is this okay? Like, I know we're still in like 4 feet apart, but like, is that okay? Are you okay? Am I okay? Am I okay? Okay. I guess we're okay. We're just staying here. Now it's real awkward.
Yeah, I've had some awkward moments because I finally started taking my mask off when I'm outside and no one is around. Because before I would just wear it all the time because I was like really paranoid somebody would come around a corner or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, that's ridiculous because I can see all the way down this road. And if somebody pops out, I'll just put my mask on. Except that I am terribly uncoordinated. So what really happens is I see someone coming and I can't get the loop on with my glasses. So as they walk by, I'm just like, and then they're staring at me because I'm trying to be considerate, but I can't get the thing on. So I just smush it over my entire face.
Now it's like, I don't like you. Like, we've gone from like, I'm trying to be courteous to like, get away.
I think just the general fumbling, they understand, like it's just my lack of coordination. But I also have the dog a lot of the time, so I'm trying to like politely like nudge him out of the way and put my mask on, and I don't have the coordination for this. It's embarrassing. So at least 3 times so far, just the past couple of days, I've just done like basically the mask face plant thing. I mean, it's effective, it works, but
it's working. Yeah. I was using my headset to talk on the phone when I was taking a walk not too long ago, and I didn't have my mask on. And then that's how mine got I was all kind of tangled up. I had my glasses on, I had my headset and like the like corded headset because I cannot get AirPods to stick in my hair or stick in my ears for anything. Like,
really? Huh.
Yeah. They just, I don't know. They're not made for my ears.
No.
I've tried, but so I was doing like the same thing and like I was talking to somebody on the phone and they're like, are you okay? Is it okay? And they're talking to me, I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. And then there's people walking by and the mask is half on and I was like, well, I should have just walked by without the mask. I mean, I've ruined this phone call. I've made those people uncomfortable. And I don't know that I protected anyone at this point. So yes, the trials and tribulations of masking.
Okay, well, at least it's not just me, because
it's not just you. No, it's absolutely not just you. We have a little yard, so we don't walk our dog so much, which shows. She's great, but also does not know how to walk on a leash, and it's a good thing she only weighs like 10 pounds, because if she weighed more than that, she would just pull us down the street.
Yeah, my dog is 80-ish pounds.
Oh, what kind of dog do you have?
He's a collie mix. He's just a big mutt. This time of year, he has a super thick, like white undercoat. Normally, it's like a darker, like brown, but for some reason, it all turns white as he's shedding it. And I wish he would just stop growing it, but I guess that's not how dogs work. I'm like, it's always this hot. What are you doing? Like, how much energy are you wasting growing all this hair just to like explode in fur and then shed it all? But yeah, so it looks like I have carpet sometimes in my house. I don't have carpet, and that's a problem. I mean, I try, like, if when we go outside, I should really bring a brush and just like brush him outside to get a lot of that hair out. But yeah, so he's 80 pounds, and if he gets something in his line of sight that he wants, it's always kind of a hassle to get him back if there's a squirrel or something like that. But he's 8, so he's not quite as bad as he used to be. When he was 3 or 4, he could almost pull me off my feet because he's just so much bigger than me.
Yeah, we had an English bulldog like years ago, and he was about 75 pounds. And when he was a puppy and he decided to go somewhere, I would have to like sort of let him go until I came across like a pole or a road sign or something, and literally like
run around.
Stop. That's how I would like be able to really like get him to stop. because most of the time he was really good on a leash. Most of the time it was totally fine. But like you said, if he found something, and sometimes I couldn't even tell what it was, like it's some sort of scent or some sort of something, I don't see anything. And he's just like, I'm going this way. And I was like, I guess we're going that way then, until there was something I could like hold on to and really like make a stand and be like, no, stop. Because no stop, if I didn't have anything to hold on to, was meaningless. And he knew it. He was just like, no stop, no, go. Like, we're doing this. You don't have control over me unless we, he never got smart enough to like veer away from road signs. Then we would have been in trouble. It would have been just like, this is what we do now. We go this way.
Yes, I always joke with him and tell him, in my bunker, I'll make sure you come with me, and
Oh, yes. Is that a spoiler? I don't know, but take your animals to your bunker, people.
Yes, definitely.
I mean, you might have to eat them later. Like we're just being real practical. I did wonder that. I was like, you know what? Because you might need that dog later. Cat, hamster,
or you could use the hair and like make some kind of really fuzzy shirt.
Oh my gosh, you totally could. I know a couple people who do like their cat fur. They have these like Himalayan cats, and they brush them and they knit with the cat fur. I know, but it takes a while. But they just store it up. They're like, well, we're brushing them anyway, and we have all this fur, so they just like put it in bags, and they're like super into it. They have spinning wheels and everything. They like make their own yarn out of it, and then knit out of it. And and the first time I heard about that, I was like, I did not know that was a thing you could do. But there you go.
And as someone who's allergic to cats, that sounds like the worst sweater ever.
So you got to know, you have to vet your doomsday community. Make sure no one has an allergy to cats.
Before you start making cat hair sweaters.
Get a bunch of cats and make some cat hair sweaters. You can do it. Like I haven't seen sweater, I don't think, but definitely scarves and hats. Like, okay, I guess that's the thing. Like I don't.
Whatever makes you happy. I mean,
I do not have like ingenuity, I guess, for that. Like the patient. I don't know what it is, but I don't have
the cats are probably flattered. Like, look, they're trying to be us. Look.
I wonder if the cats are flattered or just confused. They're like, why does this, what is happening? What's happening? Do you know what's happening? Like, yeah, my cats, I think, would be more like, why do you smell like me? This is not okay.
I don't know. I always think of cats as being like, as just being very like, oh, come wait on me, so that they would just be like, oh, of course you want to be me.
I have 2 cats, and one of them is very fat and very lazy, and she would probably have that attitude. She'd be like, oh, okay. I mean, I see you're trying to be like me. The other one is just very like all over the place. So I don't even know if he would register that he's just, he's one of those cats where like he's attacking the window or the wall, and you're like, I don't even know why. Do you see something? I don't see anything. Maybe he does. I'm not going to say he's crazy, but sometimes he comes off as crazy.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe he's chasing ghosts or something. I don't know.
He could be. On the other hand, he could just be the most intuitive of my 2 cats, and he literally is seeing something that's there that I don't see. And I don't know. And like I said, I'm not gonna make fun of him about it. I'm just gonna say he's different and leave it at that.
We have a joke that we have a ceiling ghost, because my dog, he will just randomly like be walking along, and he'll stop and he goes and just stares in the corner for like 10 seconds, and he'll do it all over the house. So he started doing it when we were in Ohio, and just to be funny, because obviously like we would joke that we have a ceiling ghost. We said, hey, ceiling ghost, we're moving. So if you want to come with us, you can, because you can, the car's in the driveway, so you don't have to leave the house where there's a ceiling. You could just get in the car where there's also a ceiling and then get out in the new house. And we had a whole ghost transportation system worked out for us. And And we were probably in our new house for maybe like a month or two when the dog walks in the middle of the living room, just stops, and he goes, and my husband and I, we both went, "You made it!" Like,
That's awesome.
I have no idea what he's looking at. It's not like there's not a ceiling fan. There's nothing up there. He just out of the blue and will sit there like for an extended period sometimes and just look at this one particular spot and then just go on his way. He doesn't growl. He doesn't get upset. Just stares, and it's very, very odd.
That is so weird. I watch way too much Ghost Adventures, by the way. So, yeah, of course you have a ghost.
You're in the right city for it if you're into ghost stuff.
Right? No, that's fascinating. See, and that's funny because when you first started telling this story, I was like, oh, well, yeah, you probably live if you're in New Orleans, you live in an old house, right? So that makes sense. But then you're like in Ohio, and I'm like, ooh, what now? Tell me this story. Because now, because in New Orleans, like, yeah, okay, you have a ghost. Like, who doesn't? As a matter of fact, it's literally like our house, we're pretty sure doesn't have a ghost, and we're real disappointed.
You should just like you should go walk around like downtown and just like have like an invitation. Like,
oh, you know what? You're right. We should be like, hey, nice ghosts only. We have a spot available for you at a house, so just follow us home.
Yeah, or like check out the bookstore. Maybe you've got like some ghosts in there. You could bring home
the
with you, and they would like books.
Mm-hmm, the bookstore, we believe that the rink does have a ghost, actually, because it's a weird thing that happens. Like, I don't think anybody's ever seen a ghost, but things will fall off of shelves like not normal, like not like if something's sort of angled to the front and it falls over. Obviously, okay, but no, like stuff that would not. It's like on a shelf, and now it's on the floor, and everyone's like, "Did anyone see what happened? Did anything happen? What happened?" You can't tell. Like all the other books around it look fine, but this book is on the floor now, and it's just weird. And it happens.
Do you read the book because maybe they're trying to tell you something?
I have never really kept track of the books that end up. It's definitely not the same one book. It's different books, but I've never really kept track of which ones it is. I'll have to do that in the future.
I think it would be creepier if it was the same one over and over and over, because then it would be like a clue, like
right, then it's obvious. Then you're like, someone needs to read this book. No, it's different. But I don't know. I mean, maybe there is a theme. I've never tried to keep track of them. And I'm gonna ask all of my coworkers. I'm like, okay, look, let's just keep track. Just email it to me, text it to me. I'll keep track of it for you. And then over the course of a few months, is there a theme? Is something happening?
Like the title spell out like a secret message? Like,
who knows? I don't know. Now I'm super intrigued because I never thought about that until you brought it up. But now I'm like, oh my God, what if there is a theme?
I know, but now that I know, I'm just gonna wait for your days off, and I'm gonna go in there and start throwing books all over the floor. You ruin your whole system.
Oh my gosh, you're supposed to be helping me. You're supposed to be helping me with this scavenger hunt, or this treasure hunt thing, not messing it up. But yeah, no, it is very interesting, and it's not just the bookstore. Like, there's some other shops that have said that they're
like in the building and all.
Because it's not just a bookstore ghost; it's like a rink ghost. If
it's a rink ghost, okay,
so it's potentially a rink ghost. So. But yeah, we'll have to keep track of it. Hope says she loves the ghost transportation thing. So glad it was welcome in your home. Yeah. You took that whole ghost thing really well. Like, you sort of invented it with the dog thing, but you've taken it very well. You're very open to the whole ghost thing.
I mean, if it really is a ceiling ghost, I don't get a creepy murder ghost vibes, so that's fine. If you just want to float around on my ceiling, sorry, it's really dusty up there.
That's awesome. All right, Bethany, we made it to an hour. We did it.
Wow.
I know, it goes by faster than you think when you get started. And
plus it's just talking, and and that's why I like doing these sorts of things, because sometimes things that are very structured, it's always oh, you have to answer actual questions instead of just ranting about my dog for 3.5 minutes.
Yeah. See, and that's what I love about virtual happy hour as well. We always talk about the book, but then we also talk about other things. Ghosts, dogs, who knows? It's great. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you to everyone who commented and watched. I saw all you guys watching and not commenting. And I put in the comments a link to Bethany's book, so you can grab a copy of it at the bookstore through our website. And yeah, have a good night.
Bye. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.